Good morning, everybody. Today is our last lesson for the unit. Not a new lesson, just our beautiful colored sheet. So what I'm going to ask you to do with whatever sheet of paper that you are using, we're going to do this a little bit different. Normally, we like the sheet of paper like this in portrait. I'm going to ask that you put it in landscape for me, okay? And right at the very top of the page, we got to be kind of cautious with our spacing. Right in the middle, we're going to put the word probability. Now, off of that, I'm going to put two branches, one to the very left and one to the very right. The branch that's to the very left is going to be called a one event type of scenario. And the branch to the right, we're going to call two events. Okay? Now, remember the goal of all of this is to hit on different types of questions that we were assigned in this particular unit, and then discuss like what types of questions you would see on your test. Okay, so let's start with the one event. What comes out directly of the one event is your classic probability formula. Oops. Your NS and your NA. Now, very, very familiar with this. You know that your NS represents your total number of outcomes, and your NA represents your desired outcomes. And we've used this formula a ton. Now, there are quite a few questions that come out of this formula, okay? First one is what we're going to call our tree diagram probability. And the example is the classic coin toss. Now, should you expect to see one of those on your test? Absolutely. It's a standard type of question. The next type that comes out of the NA over the NS is your permutation probability. And remember, we have certain words that indicate a permutation. And those words are lineup, race, any type of digits question, any type of letters question. These are very classic types of permutation questions. And I'm going to put 2 stars because usually I like to have at least 2 perm probability questions. Next type is a combo probability. And the words that indicate a combo are card hand, group, team, committee, and batch. And again, I'm going to put 2 stars because I usually like to do a couple combo probability type of questions. The last type that comes out of the NA over NS is our stochastic probability question. And you saw that lesson earlier in the unit. And I'd probably put 1 star. Now, what also goes hand in hand with the beautiful one event NA over NS is our indirect or reverse reverse psych type of questions. Okay, also called a complementary event. And that uses the formula 1 minus the probability of opposite to the question. And we could easily, in a testing situation, see a couple of these. So right now, if we look at potential testing questions, we've got about 2, 4, 6, probably 8 questions coming from the whole idea of the desired outcomes over a total outcome. Okay, let's scoot over to the right-hand side of the page. Let's scoot over to the right-hand side of the page and look at the idea of 2 events. Now, what comes out of 2 events are 3 main branches. And the 3 main branches are conditional, union, intersection. I don't like the way I wrote that. Sorry guys, bear with me here for a second. There we go. All terms that you're quite familiar with. Intersection, overlap, union, conditional. Now, let's look at what kind of follows under each of these branches. Conditional, we have a beautiful formula for conditional. Probability of A given B equals your number of opportunities where A and B are occurring over the number of opportunities where just B is occurring. And words that indicate conditional are given that, knowing, and I'm going to put down if, but I want you to be real careful with if. If is one of those words that you got to be really, really careful with. Okay, given that and knowing are classic conditional wording. Let's put a star. You know you're getting a conditional. Let's scoot over and do intersection. Now, we know that the intersection can also be called overlap. We know that the intersection usually and always is the and the classic symbol is A, the upside down U, and then the B. Now, what type of questions fan out from these? And I'm just gonna make 2 little branches. And the 2 types of questions are independent and dependent. Independent, again, is your classic and. Typical types of events where the things are independent of each other. Remember we did an example about Veronica and Owen showing up at school on time. So the probability of A and B equals the probability of A times the probability of B. You know you're getting that type of question. It's a beautiful test question. The idea of dependent are when you have subsequent events. Events that are happening subsequent to each other. And the classic example here is the selection questions. One orange marble is picked. One blue marble is picked. One green marble is picked. That whole idea of selecting something and words that indicate are pick, draw, like drawn, picking, drawing, selecting. They are classic words that indicate selection. I'm going to put 2 stars there. I usually like 2 selection questions. Now, the last 2 event idea is the idea of the union. We know it as the OR. We know it as the symbol of A, U, B. And there are 2 branches that flow from the OR. We have mutually exclusive and we have non-mutually exclusive. Now, mutually exclusive, the classic silly example was the one brown eye, one green eye. So absolutely no overlap. Non-mutually exclusive would be the blonde hair with blue eyes example. Now, what types of questions flow from this? Dice chart and Venn. And you know as well as I do that you're definitely getting a dice chart. Sometimes I do 2 Venns to be truthful. And the last thing is the formula for the OR. Probability of A plus probability of B minus the probability of A and B. And remember, the OR is one of those things where if you have the dice chart or the Venn, you can add up the numbers in the circle for the Venn. You can read it right off the dice chart, but you can also use the formula. So what I've done is I've taken all of our lessons, conditional, independent, so different types of ways to calculate probability, stochastic, conditional, and I've listed all the different types of questions, and we've put our blue stars where appropriate. So let's take a moment and just kind of have an idea of how many questions that we could potentially end up with on our test. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Sounds pretty good. Usually anywhere between 13 and 15 questions, depending on their length, make up the probability test. So definitely please expect that. And you know, with the test, you're usually talking, 35K, 35A, 5 communication. You're talking anywhere between 70 and 75 marks on the test. So I hope this colored sheet helps, and we're getting there, guys. We're going to be starting the day after the test. We're definitely going to be starting probability distribution, which is a really, really important one for your university stats classes. So please do me a favor, and I've been recommending with all of these lessons to keep really good notes, but That's another unit that's quite important in university. Okay, thank you. Bye now.